Hello, this is Be Proud, and coming to you from a balmy 26 degree Fahrenheit day here in the Outer Rim, West Virginia. Uh, if you're like me, you have a small farm. Uh, you look for kind of cheaper alternatives to the larger brand name Caterpillars and John Deeres. And most of you, if you're like me, you've looked in the Nortrac catalog and seen these little dozers. They're the Nortrac 35 XTD, and you can pick them up out of the catalog. I think including shipping, it's something like 22,000. And a price that low, you get kind of skeptical. You know, it's kind of like one of those Coyotes or one of those smaller box store tractors that you can buy out of a out of a catalog you pick up in the public bathroom. But then you can't help but be curious, so you look. And so I talked myself into buying this, and she's at 86 hours. So what we're doing today with this little dozer, I will go ahead and tell you, this is what I would consider a dress dozer. It's not a dozer that you're going to move mountains with. It's not a dozer that you're going to pull stumps with. It's not a dozer that you're going to hook up to a 8-foot cutter bar and make hay with. This is a 35 horsepower motor on a compact dozer. The blade is, I believe, 6 foot or just shy of 6 foot. And now I will say that for its size and for its horsepower, it has actually exceeded my expectations as far as what it can do. I've opened up a couple logging roads with it, and I do brush hog with it. 35 horsepower, you can run a 4-foot brush hog on the back of this very comfortably and not risk losing horsepower. And it'll climb a tree. It'll go, as far as where it'll go and what it can do, I would actually put this above a skid steer as far as mobility. Skid steers with the rubber tracks and even the rubber tires, they still tend to sink. Their weight is very centered and so and low. So, you get stuck on something and next thing you know, you have to call a bigger piece of equipment to get you out. This dozer, if you get this stuck, you were in a place that you were not supposed to be. Now, on that subject, it is light enough. I think it weighs in, I haven't checked it. I'll dig through that later and get its weight, maybe put it in the description. It's light enough. You can slap it on a 2-axle utility trailer. I think it's 7,000, I think is what this thing weighs. And pull it behind a half-ton pickup, maybe. I use a 3/4 ton, and I don't even know it's back there. So it's light enough to where if you do get it hung up or you get into a little bit of trouble where you're not able to get a larger piece of equipment to you, you can just hook a pickup truck or a farm tractor to this and pull it out. But I'm done rambling. Maybe. I'm going to talk about maintenance on these things. Just like anything else, you want to get a manual. And this dozer came with this manual, which is handy. And the service hours, I will say with this particular dozer, you have to follow these. I believe it was my 50 hour. I ran a little over. And I think it was 60 hours or something, the motor began knocking horribly. Of course, once I did his 50-hour maintenance, which is an oil change and filter replacement, it went away. So you really need to follow these. Today I'm doing the 100-hour maintenance, but the big one I want to talk about is the break-in, 10-hour break-in. I forget where it is in this manual. But the 10-hour break-in is one that I assume is skipped a lot based on reviews of this dozer. People say, well, it only ran for 15 or 20 hours and then it took a dump. Well, it's because you didn't do the 10-hour break-in on it. And the 10-hour break-in, once I find it, is an oil change, fuel filter swap out, and track tightening. Dadgum, I really need to find this so I can tell you more about it. But if you buy this, just do the 10-hour break-in. It'll save you a lot of headache. Now, on that subject of the 10-hour break-in, when these things are shipped, it's shipped with the filter that was put on at the factory. And they put those things on tight. Real tight. Overly tight. Tighter than any filter I'd put on. And I actually had to remove this housing to get the filter in a vise so I could take the filter off. In doing so, I actually broke, because I was an idiot, I didn't wrap it in cloth or anything, but my wrench slipped and I actually broke this support piece on mine. So I thought, damn, now I have to get on the phone with Japan, and it's going to be, 3 weeks before I get anything. I called the service number in this manual, and I got a company that's based in, I believe, Idaho or Utah. One of those flyover states. And by the end of the week, I had the new filter, I had the new housing, and everything else went off without a hitch. So the parts, I would assume if it's nothing large like a chassis or a new track or idlers, if it's something small, even like a fuel pump maybe, the parts are pretty quick. And there are crossovers for these filters too. They do cross over to American filters. I believe I wrote them down right here. The oil filter crosses over to a Wix 51768, and the Baldwin crosses over to a B7385. And that, of course, this is the new filter I'm going to put on. This one's one I ordered from them for this 100-hour maintenance. And the filter that they give you is a WB447-S. The next time I do an oil change on this, I'm going to try one of the Baldwins or Wicks. There was something else. Oh, these tracks have a really bad tendency of stretching. You do not want to over-tighten these tracks. Because the more you tighten them, the more they'll loosen. I read a review, I believe it was, 6 or 7 months ago, where a guy kept complaining that he was going through tracks. Tracks were only lasting like 150 hours, and he had to keep replacing them. And I would almost guess that he was treating these like a rubber track on a skid steer, just as tight as you can get them. These old steel tracks, you want slop. You want a little bit of give. I'm going to be tightening this side. So that's not actually a good example of how tight they should be. But this side here is still close to what they should be. There's about 2.5, 3 inches of play. And that might even still be a little too tight. I'd actually recommend going, if you lay a board across the drive and idler, right in the center, I would recommend about 3 inches of slop. And that way you're not putting all your pins under stress. Your track should last a while. This thing is just like any other piece of equipment covered in grease fittings, and you need to hit them, if not every 10 hours, at least every 20. The sidler, actually, I hit it every 10, obviously, because it doesn't get packed up with dirt. It's easier to get to. Which brings me to another. See this rubber cap? Don't lose these. They're a lifesaver. And if you do lose them, buy some more and put them on your grease fittings, because they save the life of the grease fitting. Let's see. As far as an operating review, I'd rate this at about a 7, actually, in terms of tracked equipment. If you've ever run an old tractor or worked on an old tractor, you can operate and work this. The layout is very similar to every tractor I've ever seen. You have a high and low range, and you have a gear selection, and a clutch, and split brakes. Brake clutch combination, which is how the dozer turns. I'm sure you all, if you're watching this, you know that already. Pretty basic instrument panel layout. Just really stupid simple. Even if you've never operated equipment before, this would not be that hard to figure out how to operate. And the manual is actually really detailed in the operating procedure. They assume that the only thing you've operated is a car. So they're very, very detailed in how they give their instructions. And I believe that's it. I'm going to be doing more of these, a few more on this. I'm going to try to keep this below 15 minutes. I have a few other pieces of equipment here that I operate and work on pretty regularly. That is the secret, by the way, to a successful day of work, is regular maintenance. If you do not maintenance your equipment regularly, it will drop you on your rear end, and it usually happens right when you need it. Anybody who's watching this who has ever made hay knows that the moment your the bail knotter screws up, or your chain drive breaks, or something very simple, something that if you'd have just oiled it, greased it, tightened it the day before, you'd have made it through the day and probably the season. But now your hay is on the ground and you're waiting around 3 or 4 days because every other farmer in the area has done the exact same thing that you did, and your hay gets ruined and you're out $10,000. That's just a ballpark. There's no way that a West Virginian's making $10,000 on hay in a day. If you are, you're not buying these. But anyway, overall experience with this dozer so far at knocking on 100 hours is it's damn good for the money. And if you follow the manual and do everything that you're supposed to do, it'll last a long time, and you'll probably make the money back pretty quick on this if you put it to work. I just use it for farm maintenance and farm stuff, which, as soon as I was born and knew that I was a farmer, I knew that I'd be broke. So, it's just one of those life things. But, yeah, I'd highly recommend this. Any questions about this dozer or the process, leave them in the comments. I'm just restarting this channel, so I've got a Massey Ferguson 165 that I'll be working on. I've got a Farmall 1948 Farmall Cub that I worked on and got running again. Have any questions on those? Uh, I've got a few pieces here that I work on pretty regularly. So if you have any questions about old equipment, the best way to go about it, let me know. I'll answer them. And till next time, catch you later.